Productivity Gladiator.
I'm Brian Nelson Palmer, and on this show, I talk about personal, practical productivity skills. This is a knowledge drop episode where I just want to share tips and hacks for you. And today it's about inbox to zero, the 2 things you need to do to hit inbox to zero. And I'm going to share some of my favorite email hacks with you. So let's get into it. And by the way, my Productivity Gladiator training, which used to be exclusively available to businesses, is now available directly to you. You can join the Productivity Gladiator membership through the website and access my online learning portal. And here's what that means. On this show right now, this is DIY or do it yourself. What I mean by that is I'm going to tell you about it, and then you're going to go figure it out on your own. And the episode's going to have some top tips, but there's not time for me to share everything. With the membership, that's now DWY or done with you. What I mean is I now have a course where I'll share my screen, I'll show you exactly what to do, and you can do it with me in real time. I also can construct the lessons in a way that you'll get it about 3 times faster, and the impact and retention is more than twice as big. The online learning platform is awesome, and this course is the cat's meow. I love teaching this course to businesses, and now you can have it too. Over the coming months, I'm going to be releasing all of the Productivity Gladiator training that I've been giving to businesses, and even more new trainings that I have in store. I am so excited about this. Right now, you can take advantage of a special introductory offer that it will never be this inexpensive again. I'll keep adding even more content and features and tiers, and you'll be grandfathered in because you started with me now. It's seriously exciting times for me and for Productivity Gladiator. So let's jump into email. Email inbox to zero. Is it necessary? You know, I used to say no to this. Maybe it's not necessary. And then the longer I do this, I want to correct the record right now. And I want to say, yes, I do think it's necessary. Not all the time, not every time you're in there, but I think once a day, which for me, I clear out either at the beginning or the end of the day. Most often, once a day, I think you should get to zero. This is why I think it's necessary. I used to work in an apartment building office. And this is back when maintenance and account requests were made by paper. So instead of email that you're used to, they came in with paper. I worked at the front desk, and I used to write up these tickets for the residents or the people that came in, and I would drop them in the staff's inboxes whenever they came in. Ashley was my GM at the time, and she processed everything in her inbox. Her inbox was cleared out every day. Greg was the maintenance supervisor, and he left all of his requests in his inbox, and it was always stacked high. I'm talking like at least a foot tall. There was so many requests in Greg's inbox. Sue was one of the most demanding residents that we had at the apartment complex. She was one of those people that shared everything that she thought, and she had requests for both Ashley and Greg regularly. And she was a ranter, and she loved to talk. So she would call me up the front desk, and she would rant and rave, wondering why her request hadn't been handled yet. But at the same time, she talked my ear off. It wasn't just the request. You know people like Sue, probably, right? She would tell me about the request, and then all of her other problems. I knew Sue's life story. Ashley was on top of her requests. Sue was always calling to follow up on the maintenance requests and never called for anything that Ashley needed because Ashley took care of it. I've told this story before, and one of the things I've heard is, maintenance requests, there's more maintenance requests and they take longer than the GM requests. Well, here's the deal. We had a sister property, and I knew the front desk guy over at the sister property, same size apartment complex, same situation, but he had the situation in reverse. His GM was terrible about getting to her inbox and processing the things in her inbox. And his maintenance guy was on it and he had all of it taken care of. So they had exactly the opposite situation where they had a resident like Sue, and Sue was always calling because their GM over there who didn't process their inbox. So it wasn't the fact that my property had more maintenance requests. It was that handling the inbox was a big indicator. And I equate this story was about physical inboxes, but email inboxes are kind of the same thing. So I equate them. Have you heard of a gateway drug? Maybe this is a bad comparison for a podcast, but I think of this as email as kind of a gateway indicator, meaning if you're bad at email, then you're probably also bad at coming through on things that I ask you for and taking care of things on your to-do list. I'm probably going to have to follow up with you. You know, those type of people that I'm describing in working with those people, it's a challenge. They're probably not going to get it done the first time. And I look at this as a gateway indicator. So I want your gateway indicator to be at 0. Now, top performers, let me equate this to work, right? Top performers, the people who you would want to work with, they have a well-developed system to process and manage their email. They get back to you on those emails. I'm a really senior project manager, and I often have some say within the organization as to who I pick to be on my team for these projects or programs that I'm taking on. So who do I pick? It's the Ashleys, not the Gregs. It's the GM who does her inbox, not the facility manager who doesn't. Those are the people, those people with that well-developed system, and the people who get back to me are the ones that I pick. Now, I've also been teaching this for a long time, and man, here's the other thing that I hear a lot. But a few is okay, right? I've had some people tell me that a few emails is okay, and you might be one of those people. You'll say things like, oh, I've got only 100 or only 50. Ooh, look, I've only got 27. And it becomes this thing where I've got less than the other person. And if you're one of those people, how many is it? What is okay? What's that number? I think it's 0. I teach people to get to 0, but I know you might disagree with me. And so I want to provide my answer back in the context of that story about Greg and Ashley, right? I've got Ashley, the GM, Greg, the facility manager. Now, if you were me and you answered the phone for our good friend Sue, who had all kinds of problems, and the nightmare lady Sue calls and she has a request, you're me, you write up that request. You walk to the two inboxes. They're side by side, by the way. Greg's and Ashley's inboxes were right next to each other on the desk. You have Ashley's inbox, there's no requests, and Greg's that's overflowing. Which one do you think will be the one that doesn't have Sue call me and follow up? And I'm going to hear about Sue's cat and how she has smelly cat breath problems and why her daughter doesn't come to visit Sue anymore. And like the whole life story, I'm going to get multiples of these phone calls. Now, let me ask it to you this way. Imagine there's 3 requests already in Ashley's box instead of the 0. If you were me, would your confidence go down just a little bit that you might get at least a phone call from Sue because you're wondering what's going on? How many is too many? Same question you just asked me about email, right? If you walk up to that inbox and there's 5, or maybe there's 10 requests already in the inbox. How about 20? How about 50? What's the number that gives you, if you're me, what's the number that gives you the highest confidence that you're going to put that request in there and you're not going to end up getting multiple phone calls from Sue following up on what she asked? That's the scenario that we're in. In my experience in this real life story, the number is, if it was more than 3 requests in Sue's inbox, that meant I was probably going to get at least 1 phone call from Sue. And if there were 10 or more requests sitting in Ashley's inbox, that meant that Sue was going to be calling me at least twice, and I was going to have 2 great phone calls with Sue. So I stand confidently and say that I believe that a few isn't good enough. For me, and I'm a teacher at this, I'm going to teach you to get to 0. Not some, not a few, not less than 100. I'm going for 0. And I hope that you set that as your goal too, because I don't want anyone you work with to have to listen to not one additional phone call from Sue. And that means you should clear out your inbox. So here's the bottom line. If you don't have a really well-developed system and you don't get to 0 emails in your inbox once a day, I've got a system for you. I've been teaching it for years. Please let me teach you. I love this. This would bring me so much joy. Now let's get to the topic for today, which is how do you get to 0? And then those hacks I was talking about. Here's how you get to 0. This is going to seem real simple. And here's how it works. It is the 4 Ds. Deal with it, delegate it, defer it, and delete it. You look at the emails that come in, look at the first one, deal with it. If it takes less than 2 minutes, reply to that email, deal with it, and then archive that message or delete it out of your inbox. Next up, delegate it. If it's not for you, maybe this email is for someone else, then delegate. Send that email to whoever it is that needs to take care of that. And maybe you need to schedule a reminder for yourself to follow up with that person, but get it out of your inbox. Third, defer it. If it's going to take more than 2 minutes, or you can't do anything with it now. More than 2 minutes meaning your response is going to take more than 2 minutes. Maybe that's an actual task that you need to do. That might go on your to-do list or somewhere else, and it goes out of your inbox. Or if you can't do anything with it now, for example, a request, hey, we credited back your account. If you don't see the credit in 5 business days, then let us know. Well, then you're going to defer it to another time. And I'll talk about snoozing an email later. That's a trick for you. So deal with it, delegate it, defer it, or delete it. Now here's the kicker. You have to delete or archive it out of your inbox once you reviewed it and there's nothing left to do with it. So here's how this works. Deleting it, imagine an email is a piece of paper. You're going to read that piece of paper, and then at the end, you're going to delete it. If you're going to delete it, that means you're going to put it in the trash can. The trash can's going to go out to the curb, and eventually the trash guys are going to take that trash away, and that email will be gone forever. That's deleting it. However, in Outlook and Gmail and all of the email systems, they have a way to archive it. If you archive the message, that means you get it out of your inbox. And imagine take that same piece of paper and you walk out the back door and you leave it in the swimming pool out back. It's a covered swimming pool. It's not going to get wet. The email will be fine there. The email systems now have a way for you to search through that swimming pool. If you ever need to find that email message again, it's going to be there. It's in the archive. And the search capability is awesome these days. So archiving your emails is the way to get them out of your inbox if you're done with them. That's the step that a lot of people have been missing. Maybe that's you. So if you're listening and you have a boatload of emails in your inbox, start right now and set aside some time to do the 4 Ds on your email inbox. And then when you're done with those emails, archive them out of your inbox. They're still there. You can still get back to them, but archive them, get them out of there. Generally, if an email has been sitting there for more than 2 to 4 weeks, if it's something that somebody needed from you, they will probably be sending you another email follow-up for it. So I say 2 to 4 weeks is a rough, whatever's good for you. Don't lock into those dates, but go back. And once you hit 2 to 4 weeks, archive everything out of your inbox. That'll get you to 0. Now, email hacks. I've got 5 email hacks that I want to share with you. The first one's a little one. This is the send and archive button in Gmail. Go in the settings in Gmail and enable this button in settings. At the bottom of the message, there's a button that says send and archive. You can reply to a message and then hit send and archive, and it sends the message and it archives the email immediately. That way you can always refer back to it later if they reply back to your email, but it's not sitting in your inbox anymore. So send and archive, that button is magic. I love it. Number 2, schedule send your emails. Please. There are 2 reasons this is super important. The first one is you don't want people to think that you work late. So if you send email messages at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., are you one of the bosses or supervisors that might be working some late hours? And then you send that email and it hits your staff's inbox and you even tell them in the message, don't worry about replying this tonight. Just let me know when you get in tomorrow. You are still setting the precedent as the supervisor that you're working way late. It sets the expectation, whether you mean to or not, that you're on late, you're getting emails after hours. Well, it's unfair that they would email you and think that you're going to reply at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night. So if you are sending an email, send that email to be the next business morning. You can do this in Outlook and Gmail, figure out how to do it. And here's the other bonus to this. You can control when it hits their inbox, because I don't know about you, but to me, if I email people on the weekends, the odds of them getting back to me, the odds went down by 50% if it hits their email on Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. You can plan when that email is going to hit their inbox and send it for Monday morning at 7 a.m. so that it's at the top of their email inbox. And what are the odds you're going to get the response you need faster? Send your emails is such an awesome thing. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that capability with email. Next up, number 3, snooze your emails. Gmail and Outlook Online have this capability. And so imagine you have something that comes in that needs some sort of credit, right? Maybe like the example I shared earlier with a credit. The vendor emails you and they say, hey, I've credited your account. You should see that credit in 3 to 5 business days. Well, now that it's on you to get back to them. And if you haven't seen the credit, you're going to have to respond to that email and let them know I did not receive the credit. So by snoozing your email, that very same email is going to pop right back up in the top of your inbox. Whenever you schedule it for, it will come right back at that time. And by snoozing that email, it's going to be such an awesome way for you to stay right on top of whatever that thing is, because it's going to come back right when you need it to come back. Snoozing is available on Gmail. It's on Outlook Online. Some of the desktop versions of Outlook, I haven't seen where they have the snooze capability yet. So to be honest, I've started experimenting with just using the online version because it has snooze, or there's other ways you can do it. You can set up something on your to-do list. There's ways to snooze your emails or trigger them so that they come back at the right time. But regardless, snoozing your emails is a skill that I want you to have for your personal and your work email. Make sure you have a way to do that. All this stuff is in the course that I share. Man, I go into a lot more detail about this. Number 4, use templates. This is something in Outlook and in Gmail and in many systems. Do you send the same email over and over again? Or are you on a team who sends the same emails? Make it in a template. Or better yet, do you have a bunch of information that you always want to put in the bottom of an email? This is something that happens with the programs that I'm in. If I'm responding, I'm going to want them to have the link to the program, the link to the information on instructions on how to use something. I want to provide them with the same information over and over again. So you can hit a template and then you can modify the email after you initiate the template, but it will go ahead and knock out the language that you need in the template. Templates are awesome for email. And then number 5, close your inbox and no notifications when you are not in your email. Are you one of those people that leaves your email open while you're working? You leave it up on a screen on one side, or by the way, this is true of Microsoft Teams or Slack. If you leave those open on a screen too, close those, because unless your job is working at a support center where it's your job to reply to emails, then why do you leave your emails open? Here's what I hear. This is what people tell me. Well, what if my boss emails, or what if something urgent comes in? Then what would happen? Then I would miss it when it comes in. If you were in a 2-hour in-person meeting without your computer and you didn't get back to your boss until the end of that meeting, would that have been okay? And if that's the case for you in your role, then I think you could probably close your email to focus on the productive things you need to be focused on. Does your job description have a requirement for how long it takes for you to reply to emails? That's a place to start, at how frequently you can be checking your inbox. But ultimately, what I want to do here is I want to give you some confidence that you can close your email and be productive and come back and check it regularly. And here's the other thing. You're closing your email, you're closing Teams or Slack, and There are no notifications, guys. None. No notifications. No red numbers popping up. No dings. No pop-ups. No vibrations. I want nothing. Close your email. And if you're really bad about this, I can already say this is probably going to be like trying to like quit cigarettes or something. Yeah. And I've only heard this. I've never been addicted to cigarettes, but they all tell, oh my gosh, you're going to close it. And then at first, then you're just going to be thinking about it. And you're like, oh, I need a hit. Let me just check that inbox real quick. Just a puff. Just let me get a puff. You're going to do it. Here's what I think. I think a healthy relationship with email is 4 times a day. I think that's the sweet spot for a working professional on how often you're checking your email and responding. So early to mid-morning, before lunch, mid-afternoon, and before you sign off for the day, those are the 4 times that I try to check my email and reply back to anything that needs a reply to. And by the way, if stuff comes in that is going to take longer than the 2 minutes, like you're going to need to get back to that person, you can reply back and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to get this to you right now, but it should be coming soon, or acknowledging receipt of this or something like that. You can acknowledge it and then copy that to your to-do list or put that somewhere else and archive that email out of your inbox. So 3 quick things to close out here. First, we covered a lot here. Please try some of these things. Try the 4 Ds. Archive and delete emails after you're done with them. Try schedule send. Try some of those on your emails. Snooze your emails. Investigate that. How does your system do snooze? Can you snooze? Google that. Find out. Use templates. If you haven't used templates, Google it to see how your system does templates, because there's YouTube videos and resources out there for that. And lastly, close your inbox. Second thing, if you have a friend or colleague who has a boatload of emails in their inbox, copy the link to this episode into a text message. Not an email, by the way, because after everything we just talked about, don't we know how that's going to turn out if you email it to them? So send a text to them, to the friend or colleague, and make sure you start with something nice. Don't talk about how much you appreciate them or something like that. And perhaps you can mention that you were thinking about this kind of training for the team and what do they think about it? That way you're not accusing them of being terrible with email, because that text message isn't going to go over well. But I hope you try that and give that a shot. That way they know that you're not calling them out specifically. And then lastly, that was 5 email hacks and just a quick primer. The online course I told you about that's part of Productivity Gladiator membership, it is all the hacks. It's all the productivity tips. It's a full on-screen demo walking you through the 4 Ds and everything that I covered, rules and filters. There is so much in that course and I love it. It's all of it. Check it out if that's something that I can help you with. If this is something that your team or your workplace could use this kind of training, please connect with me. I've been into so many organizations to teach this training. For me, I have fun. I love talking about being productive with email this way. So I would love to empower you and the people in your group to be way better at email. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the follows, the subscribes, the reviews, and the comments on the social media posts about this stuff. I love sharing Productivity Gladiator with you. That's a wrap.
Productivity Gladiator.